Okay, we have with us today Charlie Warfield, Scooter Clippard, and Ronnie Carter, and we're going to discuss a lot of the 1982 Clinic Bowl state championship games and how that came into play. Can you three just give a brief bio of yourselves and what your role was back in '82?
I was assistant director. I'd been working since '78, and all I was doing was whatever Gil Gideon told me to do. And so my role basically was being in charge of the sports and that type of thing. And that what brought us into the whole situation with the Clinic Bowl that year. And one of the first things that happened that I remember out of that '82 game was Gil telling me, we're going to have a meeting with Scooter Clippard, Charlie Warfield. And he said I had Scooter Clippard in class at Lexington High School or something.
Jackson.
At Jackson. Yes, at Jackson. And that starts it all. Now you can introduce these two guys.
Tell us about what you did.
Ronnie, he was my junior high coach in the 7th grade, and PE coach. And I guess when Charlie and I, we were in the junior chamber, Charlie taught me everything I know about the junior chamber. I wasn't from Nashville, I was from Maryville. And when the president of the junior chamber asked us to be involved in the Clinic Bowl, I mean, one of the things I wanted to do was bring the state championships here. So Charlie and I,
well, we had a good meeting there. I'm Charlie Warfield, and as Scooter said, we were members of what's known as the Nashville Area Junior Chamber of Commerce. And the Nashville Area Junior Chamber of Commerce had been around for a number of years and began in the 1920s, became associated with the Clinic Bowl in about 1950. There was actually a Clinic Bowl game before, and if I say something that's wrong, Ronnie will probably fix me, in 1947 that was hosted by the American Legion. By the time the Junior Chamber came around, Nashville Area Junior Chamber of Commerce, and we took control, and I don't know if we had total control, but it was with the NIL, which nobody would know what the NIL today is, but it was the Nashville Interscholastic League, and I won't try to say it, but the Officials and Referees Association were the groups that did that. So that was the first year that the Junior Chamber was involved in, and as Scooter said, we were both participants with the Junior Chamber that did a lot of different things, but Clinic Bowl was the star. We did the Nashville Pro Celebrity Golf Tournament, and Scooter ran that forever and did a great job doing that. We did a lot of nonprofit things. We did a children's event where the kids got toys. But the Clinic Bowl has always been the star event for our group. And I was born in Nashville, grew up going to the Clinic Bowl, which was originally in Thanksgiving, but I assume we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And wasn't your father the chair of the Clinic Bowl many years ago, Charlie?
My father was the chair of the Clinic Bowl, and the person I worked for, whose name was Bill Akers, was chair of the Clinic Bowl. And then the guy that started our company that I work now is Nelson Andrews, and he was that.
Wow.
So
it has some history.
Most people don't know what encompassed the Junior Chamber. Tell us about the membership,
Sure.
What you did, age limitations, things like that.
Not politically correct, but you have to run your brain back to many, many years ago. It was originally an all-male organization. Before you had social media and LinkedIn and all the things that people link in, Nashville was a much smaller town. It was controlled by a very small number of people. You didn't have the big national banks. You did have 3 major banks in Nashville. You had 2 large insurance companies that had all been started here, but it was a small place compared to what it is now with the amount of economic influence that Nashville pushes. But it was a way for people to get to know other people. Like I met Scooter. Some of the people you would know because you grew up with them. Again, Nashville was a small town then, but we did a lot of charitable events. Our office was in the Chamber of Commerce main office down on 5th or 4th? 4th. It was on 4th. And so we did a lot of different events that the senior chamber just wanted a bunch of people to do, the harder work. And I mean, they did all the big stuff. But if they needed people to do things, they oftentimes would call on the junior chamber. And it, during Scooters in my time, probably went from 200 people till toward the end, 600. And at that point, we did have both men and women. And it was a great way to meet other people. And it was a business group, but it was also a very social group because people met with others both during meetings and afterwards. And some of my best friends today, I met in the Junior Chamber of Commerce.
Now, the same thing, I moved from Maryville, Tennessee. Roy Kramer calls it Maryville.
Everybody said that.
Yeah, in 75, and I didn't know anybody, and joined the junior chamber, and that's where all my close friends really from Nashville are now.
Well, Gilbert was
Right.
in the junior chamber, I think he played in a clinic bowl.
He may have played, but he chaired the Clinic Bowl, I think, in the late 60s.
Meaning you're the guy you worked for.
Yeah, he was A.J. Smith Company.
Talk about when you all met with Mr. Gideon and Mr. Carter. What exactly were you going to propose, and did you realize exactly what it was going to be, how big it was going to be?
That gets a laugh from all three.
Well,
Because the end of the story's funnier than the first of it. So
it is. When I guess Tom Allen was the president and the board approached Charlie and I to chair the Clinic Bowl, I think one of I'm from East Tennessee, and Maryville would play in games, come across, and I just thought, and I'm from Jackson too, it's not quite fair for a team to Jackson to have to go all the way to East Tennessee, them host the game. What home field advantage? Or somebody from East Tennessee go to West Tennessee. And I thought, this is what we ought to do. We ought to host all the classes and host them in one location. And Gil Gideon was the executive director. He was your boss at that time.
My boss and your former teacher.
And he was my teacher and my junior high football coach. And Charlie and I said, let's go see him. And you were there as the assistant, and we came in and made a proposal, a financial proposal to pay each team, pay the TSSAA. Charlie had been involved where you go to all these towns and sell ads, teams playing. So the junior chamber knew how to do that, but it was a risk. And we didn't meet with you just one time. The first time you thought, no way, they can't do this. Isn't that right?
Not only the first time, I think about the first and second meeting, I told Gil, there's no way they can do this.
And we went to the junior chamber board.
we did.
And
Well, we offered, I don't remember the amount, but it wasn't a whole lot of money to each school. And I guess it was by category. So I remember something like $1,500 for each of the schools, and maybe $1,500 for the TSSAA. Now,
it's in that newspaper article over there.
Well, you can-
$1,500 for the single A,
yeah,
$2,500 for the double A, and $5,000 for the triple A.
we had a funny part at the end. We also had an agreement with them that if a crowd was a certain number, that we would give them more money.
That's right.
So we obviously won the lottery in the teams, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But we had somewhere above 20,000 people. At least that's what we were told. And so Scooter and I trying to protect the money that we had, but at the same time supporting the TSSAA, we're sort of saying, oh, there's no more than about 5,000 people there. And these guys were saying, there's got to be 50,000. So we settled. The money that the Junior Chamber raised went to the to a Vanderbilt clinic for physical therapy back then. They didn't call it physical therapy. And so everything that we raised went there, but we had an agreement with the TSSAA on what we would pay each of the groups. And the thing that we had to offer was a lot of people, and we had run the Clinic Bowl for a number of years, and so it wasn't like just throwing it to a group that had never done it, but I do know the story that Ronnie told on that. So
long ago, when we were all a lot younger, the game was marketed as strong legs run so weak legs can walk.
Right.
And that was the, quote, crippled children's clinic or whatever.
Wasn't it the Children's Hospital called the Vanderbilt? Or
well, it wasn't. It was just called the physical therapy then. Then changed.
Okay.
But yes.
But as groundbreaking as it was, the TSSAA had tried the idea of 3 state champions in one day. It's on Thanksgiving Day, and I believe it was 75 and 76.
75 and 76.
But that was not a model for success as far as TSSAA was concerned. Didn't have the organization that the Junior Chamber had. Do you have some numbers and figures on what Texas was and things like that, and why it really didn't go well?
And the playoffs started 1969. So we were just playing, and literally as it evolved, in the playoffs, we were playing at home sites. And we were playing on home sites basically so we would assure ourselves of at least one home crowd. And that's how the playoffs start. Then when you get to like you're talking about in 75 and 76, we had the game at MTSU at Murfreesboro. And we decided that's when Michigan and they decided to try and see if we could set it at Central Site. And it went good, but it did not go great. By that I mean, literally when we had teams coming in, there was not an outside group working with us. It was just football games played at MTSU Stadium. And as a result, it was good, but it was not great by any means. So in walks this conversation that starts in getting ready for the 82 and their proposal with us. And now you have to realize what the setup was with the schools. There was a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split of money in each of those games. Both schools got a third, and TSSAA got a third. And so that was the financial split. And in addition to that, though, we had to, TSSAA, we had to pay their expenses for the visiting team to come. So you had travel involved if Memphis came to Bristol or whatever it had to do. So there was a lot of things involved there, plus TSSAA was running the event, which meant everything as simple as paying the officials to work the game and so on. So it had all of that build-up. So as we got ready to have the meeting, and Gil he first tells me about this guy, Scooter Clippard, that he had as a student. And we have that conversation. He says they're going to submit a proposal to us to work. So they come in and we start the first conversation in the first meeting, the 4 of us in there in Gil's office. And it is about the Junior Chamber sponsoring the Clinic Bowl starting in 82. And so now it's going to change different. Now, everybody knew what the Clinic Bowl was because the Clinic Bowl had a history, as Charlie said, and everyone in Middle Tennessee knew what the Clinic Bowl was. It was the biggest bowl game that matched 2 great teams in Middle Tennessee. Now, they didn't know it maybe as much in East and West, but it had some history already. So then when we get ready and we start talking, hence it is, let's see if it can be the state championship. That's where these 2 brilliant guys start with the conversation. When the meeting gets over with and they presented the proposal, and you got to remember now, we've got to take care of the schools that are going to be playing, just like we've been doing. But we also, with them, it is a purpose, and it is to take care of the hospital, to take care of the kids, to take care of all of that. So there was a lot involved in just the conversation as we get ready to talk. When we have the first meeting and they just present the concept and the idea, Gil, when they leave the office, Gil asked me, he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "There is no way on earth they can do this. They cannot try to pull this together and step out to guarantee us the money that's got to go to the schools, because the schools literally making the championship game, they hope to benefit financially also." So that's how the first meeting starts, and then we have a couple of more meetings after that, and it just keeps building. And the next thing you know, the 1982 Clinic Bowl is going to be the state championship game of the A, AA, and AAA.
See, the Clinic Bowl was originally just two NIL, again, two Nashville teams that played each other. And then in the 70s or so, it became Mid-State versus Nashville. And then later, the Junior Chamber became part of the TSSAA championship. And we were, I think, the second round.
Quarterfinals.
So we made sure we got a Middle Tennessee team. And we made money from sales for the program. We had some national sponsors. We did the car raffle that Lee Beeman's company did. So, and I think our year we donated over $200,000 to the Vanderbilt Hospital.
It was exactly $180,700. That's which was 100,000 more than ever donated to the Children's Hospital before.
But earlier you mentioned that you hit the jackpot in the matchups.
We did.
If you had had Bristol and Haywood County, it might not have been that way.
Right.
But
we could have done what we promised, I believe. We could have done our payments, but we wouldn't have. I mean, we might have given $10,000 or $15,000.
Yeah.
But yes, we won the lottery.
So Vanderbilt was happy.
yeah,
And you have to understand what we had that is Vanderbilt supported us so much. So we ran the game, but that's really not totally true because Vanderbilt had their people, their Bickerstaff, is that?
Roy Kramer.
We're all going to be there. And, of course, if Roy Kramer said something, you could do whatever you wanted because he was the boss.
Right. I remember us going in to see him. But I'm from Maryville, and his wife's husband was my dentist, so it was, and like Charlie said, hosting all those games at Vanderbilt. Well, Vanderbilt loved that. Hey, wait a minute, we're going to have all these good teams here, recruiting. When you're recruiting, pretty good, and they jumped in there pretty quick, didn't they?
We were also fortunate. We had a good lady who helped us, who was your friend. You can do that part.
Well, my mother was real good friends with Minnie Pearl, and we approached her to be the honorary chair. She accepted. Well, having Minnie Pearl on the face was huge. And also, I don't know if we got lucky or what, Charlie, but we would host a luncheon like on a Tuesday prior to the game. And somehow we got Vince Dooley to come in and be the speaker.
I think you did that.
However we did.
We flew down together, didn't we, to pick him up?
Right.
On somebody's plane.
I'm not, sure whose it was, but we did. We picked him up. And there were newspaper articles, Larry, I'm sure you wrote about him coming to town. And then we had George McIntyre, we had Majors, we had a lot of those people come to the luncheon. And that was that was a big success. I think we made money on the luncheon.
Who knows?
I don't know that. But that really started a lot of the press that week. I mean,
you also have to understand the football side of it and the school side of it. That was used, it was a big event for them, period. But in addition, it now allowed us to bring the players in from all six of the teams and have a little preview of what's going to take place this weekend.
Mm-hmm. So I remember as a working journalist, that was the first time that that you ever had representatives from each school, and it became a normal thing.
Yep.
That you had representatives from each school, and you could have, we spent 2 hours or so before the games or early in the week with the kids coming from all over the state and getting videos and articles and whatever sort of media they have leading up to it, which was a promotional thing.
Right.
And it gave us a chance to have a press conference, in essence, that brought coaches from all 6 of the teams together. So that became a drawing crowd on that Tuesday. So it was a preview of the games, but it had all of the things you just mentioned and Charlie and Scooter just mentioned. It had all of that, which we had not done before. We had just come before, and we came in on the weekend and played football games.
If you go back and look at the earlier meetings that you had, was there ever anything that you had to take a deep breath and say, I think we can do this, or were we always confident in everything that they were asking, that TSSAA was asking? Because I'm sure there had to be, in pre-planning, did you realize that we were going to have to pay all the lodging and all the officials and that things that roll up a lot in incidental expenses? Is there anything?
Charlie Warfield and Scooter Clippard are positive people. And we presented to the junior chamber very positively that we can do this. I know the junior chamber had to vote on this.
They did.
Right? I'm not sure if there were some reservations or not, Charlie. I can't remember.
Well, Scooter and I are both sales people.
Yes.
You have to understand that.
Yep.
And Scooter's a better
people
salesperson.
don't.
Not,
So, but as I think back, it's sort of frightening to think, if you were today to go and present something to Gil, we would have had all sorts of fancy stuff on and had numbers and all of this. I don't think we had all that, Scooter. So I think we went there and said, just trust us. We can make this work.
That's the greatest picture of it. These 2 guys come in and say, we can make this work. And so that's a major part of it. And then, because you will remember at this particular time, some of the power teams was Tennessee High School at Bristol. So obviously you'd have to go back and think, okay, what if it's Bristol playing Memphis? So their thought processes would be there that it could be no Middle Tennessee teams in there.
right.
So that's how we approach. But then as it builds, it keeps building. We have utmost confidence in these 2 guys from the start. And it just keeps building. And the next thing you know, when we present it to the TSSAA board, it is, let's go. Let's do it.
I know that junior chamber had a lot of manpower that you didn't have everywhere else. I also recall, and you mentioned Minnie Pearl earlier, when you had a kickoff dinner one early in the season, which I described it to somebody once as kind of a glorified pep rally to get your people enthused. The membership bought into it really, really well, I thought.
Well, we had monthly meetings of the junior chamber. Maybe there were a couple of times that we didn't, but one of the biggest meetings that we had was the Clinic Bowl kickoff. And so, you talked about the plans and you tried to do the rah-rahs to make sure you had the people that were going to volunteer. I think my first job, which I think is not the most exciting job at the Clinic Bowl, I was in charge of parking. I think that's about the bottom number. So I said, I want to be involved because I said, my father had done this and Bill Akers and Nelson and all of this. And so they said, yeah, you're in charge of parking. So, because we did generate money from parking too.
Yeah, we did.
So yes, we had the big kickoff, which was a normal junior chamber night event, as well as the event the week of the games that Scooter talked about.
Yeah, Charlie, the program's over there, and in that program, it shows all our co-chairs,
Probably.
charge of parking, charge of concessions, and you can see 10 people or so in the program under each of those co-chairs. I bet we had how many people actually really involved during game day?
It was actually pretty well organized after all that, and we had one guy that had helped run the actual event for a year and a year, and he had just this long dissertation that we're all supposed to follow. But when you've run a football game since 1950, you learn some things and you screw up some things.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we were awfully lucky, and we were very fortunate that TSSAA trusted us.
The matchups were almost as ideal if you're going to have teams from out of the immediate Middle Tennessee area. The first game, which was the Class A game, had Catholic out of Memphis and Marion County out of Jasper. And that was not, the heart of your audience or the heart of the area, whatever. But they had, particularly Marion County, very enthusiastic and a large crowd for that group.
Marion County brought a lot of people.
And a tractor, as I recall.
Yeah.
And what?
Tractor that went off or something.
Yeah,
the big horn.
Did a good.
All of us have been in trouble if we hadn't mentioned the tractor Marion County brought into Vanderbilt.
They did bring
Totally
a tractor,
forgot
and it
about
was like every time they would scope of which, or every time they'd make a big place or whatever. Second game, Brentwood Academy in Cleveland. Benny Monroe from Cleveland and legendary coach over there, and of course, Brentwood Academy was going for a state championship. Actually, it was in this particular game, was going for its third straight state championship, which was unprecedented in TSSAA history. And then you had Gallatin, the blue blood of Middle Tennessee, rural Middle Tennessee. I want to call it Gallatin rural. And then Lincoln County, which was it had never made the playoffs before. The school was only 4 years old.
Wow.
And they had a coach that, even though he was well known in North Alabama and in southern Middle Tennessee, he was a different, Coach Meadows there was a different breed of cat in terms of downplaying everything and boosting the other team in the old school of, we're not near as good as they are, Did you feel real good about your matchups? Could you have asked for better?
You had to feel good. We at least knew Lincoln County and we knew Gallatin. We'd had Gallatin in the Clinic Bowl a number of times, but it would have been in that second in the regional
always,
stuff.
every year.
So
You don't want to leave off. You also had Carlton Clapp, his career was just in the process of being built. And you had, so in the AA game, you had Brentwood Academy with Carlton Clapp, and you had Cleveland with Benny Monroe, two well-known coaches across the state. So it had a uniqueness to it. And then all of a sudden you throw in the last game, and it's Gallatin and Lincoln County, two teams, both of them just right outside of Nashville.
It was fun for me. Carlton Flatt was one of my coaches at BGA, and Jimmy Gentry coached me wrestling, so they were both on the program. And Carlton told me one time, he says, Jimmy's sort of come and gone on whether he's assistant coach or not, but he says, I don't think I ever won a state championship that Jimmy wasn't an assistant.
He was a vital part of the staff.
Yep.
But even the Class A game, Don Lear, who was a coach at Catholic, and almost nobody knew who he was, but he had been an assistant coach at Middle Tennessee State at one point.
I know.
Whatever.
Charlie, it's really interesting because Carlton Flatt, the coach at BA, you had played for him. Benny Monroe was the assistant coach at Maryville High School, and I played for him. And that's kind of amazing. And actually, in the semifinals, it was Maryville against Cleveland. And Maryville had won back-to-back state championships in the late 70s. So, we knew that both those teams would bring some people. But the fact that we both had coaches we played for in that game was very, very fun.
I don't remember if this took place now. I kind of think it did. Weren't teams allowed other schools who are not in the playoffs, allowed to bring their teams to the Clinic Bowl? Or it may have just been that
I think
there were several schools.
Yeah,
who had,
you know what?
Banks or somebody else.
that was an issue.
Yes, that's true. You're talking about the ones that may be lost in the semi?
Right.
Yes, because Don Story was the head coach at Maryville, and
Brought the team.
a lot of yes, that's exactly right.
And we didn't
I'm
charge
not sure, but no, didn't charge.
Yeah. And see, I think that opened it up on a permanent basis to get people going to the Clinic Bowl games became a tradition statewide, going to the state championship games. because they're people from, let's say, the Huntlands and Chapel Hills of Middle Tennessee that perhaps may never go to a state championship game, but at least their teams could go and witness and give them something to aspire to.
Absolutely.
You know, Larry, one other thing you have to realize that goes without saying, but these two guys were a major part of this too. When we set this thing up, it meant we had to have 6 locker rooms because you couldn't turn around.
Yeah.
So we had to do everything in terms of what's taking place. And Vanderbilt, Coach Kramer, they were super. So what you had was you had the junior chamber, you had these two guys, and then you had Roy Kramer, Ray Bickerstaff, and Vanderbilt, who were just as excited, and it just had all the perfect thing. And then the next thing you know, here we go.
Can you all describe, and this would include TSSAA as well as the junior chamber and everybody who had anticipation, what it was like for the 3 weeks before the Clinic Bowl game to sit and look at the bracket and, well, this is good that this team won. And it was, I mean, everybody had dollar signs in mind as far as that, and they wanted a good game and a good tradition and that kind of thing. But can you just, were you tracking the brackets very, very closely?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, since I'd played at Merrill and Benny Monroe, I wanted those two teams in the semis. And Charlie, being as involved as he was for years, going into Gallatin and selling ads and knowing that they'd turn the lights out, probably bring 10,000 people, right? Tracking that.
They were the biggest group that we ever had, and of course Lincoln County came and just
about the same thing, isn't they?
Well, and Marion County always brought a sign that said, "Last one out of the city, turn off the stoplight."
And then you have to, Larry, you have to get the uniqueness of Lincoln County, and you can speak to it because Lincoln County High School was really a new school in terms of the consolidation of Lincoln County High School. And all of a sudden it's building with great people involved in it and with what had taken place in Fayetteville. So it was just a perfect situation.
Lincoln County first showed its uniqueness in trying to support a program. Its first basketball, when the school opened in the fall of 79, the 79-80 boys basketball team made the state tournament first year, and they took up over 3 sections of Middle Tennessee's Murphy Center. The Herman's crowd was one of the
in
largest
an afternoon game.
An afternoon game. It was, and that was one reason TSSAA had hope. I think is because of that. The Class A game went, I think, 21-0. 21-0 in favor of Memphis Catholic. Nothing really too eventful about it, but everything went, I think, relatively smoothly. No one in the press box noticed anything that didn't go smoothly. But that got you off to a good start in terms of crowd, in terms of your manpower as far as that's concerned. And then 7-0, Brentwood Academy beat Cleveland in the second game. Mike McIntyre, whose father George was coach at Vanderbilt, turned in an outstanding game, turned the field 3 or 4 times with punts.
Wow.
And, that was a very, it was a 7-0 can be exciting. Like 1-0 in baseball can be exciting because the next play can change it all. But then you got to the main event. And speaking from the newspaper standpoint, I can recall Calvin Short from Gallatin, the head coach there, extremely good head coach. We were writing stories about the game, and John Meadows, the coach at Lincoln County, was saying, they're so good. We're not as big as they are. We're not as fast as they are. They've got this tradition. They got all this. And Calvin was saying, now don't be writing that. Just because he says it don't mean you have to put it in the paper. But that was what you had to put in the paper, what the coaches said. And it seemed, though, that Gallatin was an overwhelming favorite. I mean, I think going in, 10 out of 20, 10 out of 10 people pretty much would expect Gallatin to win the game.
Well, Calvin had set up all of the middle schools and others running the same program, the same plays that he did. So when they came to high school, they already knew all the plays. And so that's the reason, in Charlie's opinion, other than Calvin was a great coach, the kids knew what they were doing, and it wasn't anything new. And if you haven't listened to it, Coach Palmer, who was an assistant on the Lincoln County, has done a thing on the internet that talks about somewhat the amount of losses they had of people during that and sort of their coaching style. And it's really interesting. One of the things that he told that I thought was cute, and I watched the game too, the game ends before the last play, because you have to remember, different than what we're taping right now, you actually had film. They ran out of film. So on the actual film, there's no touchdown. Now, they later found it that some TV station had done it. So, but if you go on the internet to look at it, it ends right there before the last play.
The game started and Gallatin got the opening kickoff, scored on its second play, both long runs, and kicked the extra point, went up 7-0. The sense in the press box, the sense in almost over the entire stadium, I think, was that they on their way to a romp. But it didn't turn out that way. Lincoln County came back and scored a play before the end of the second quarter to make it 7-7. And nobody scored after that in regulation. Wow. Can you just talk about the tension that you could feel? I mean, it's just like any kind of great showdown. I mean, it's first one blinks, loses kind of thing. But I think by the end of the game, both sides were just on edge.
Coach Palmer, on his little piece that I was telling you about a minute ago, said that they ran us up and down the field, and that we just stopped them from scoring. So I don't remember it as clear, but I can only tell you that's what Coach P said, and so I'm confident that that's the way it happened.
Well, I believe Gallatin lost 3 fumbles in the game, kept the call.
It's hard to remember now,
but it was.
Wait, we're trying to remember 1982. How many fumbles in the game? Is that what I heard?
He probably had. He was able to do some research.
That's a stat sheet entry, I know.
Wow.
Can't recall.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now if you want to get one more little piece in it that's neat, I'm walking around the top of the stadium with Coach Kramer. We're talking about what a great day it's been. And as we're walking around, we're sitting here looking at the crowd, and the place looks almost full. And as we're doing the Ray Bickerstaff, his assistant, who did a lot of work in the press box all the time with people, and as we're walking around, I said, "This is unbelievable, the crowd." And I said, "How many people do you think is here?" And the next thing that happened, I noticed Ray Bickerstaff starts panning the crowd, looking as if he's counting everybody in the crowd. And I'm sitting there just overwhelmed, and the next thing he says, "Ronnie, unless I miss my guess, it's right at 27,000. And I can remember making eye contact with Coach Kramer, great man, and there's a smile on his face like he doesn't know exactly what it is. But that was the epitome of just what the atmosphere ended up being at the end of the game. And then you throw in the end of the game, what turns around takes place, and it couldn't be any better.
Well, Gallatin was used to playing before large audiences. It's previously to that game, it had played in a game in 1978 at Chattanooga Red Bank for the state championship and won that game. And that, at that point in time, was the largest. I think they had 11,000. That was the largest crowd, attributed crowd to ever see TSSAA state championship.
Cool.
Overtime,
Well, first of all, Larry, I can remember Charlie and I mean, the Brentwood Academy game before probably had 6,000-7,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
So we were so happy about that.
Yep.
And before the kickoff, you remember us walking up the stairs, and we just looked at each other. I mean, we were like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, it's like a college crowd here. We were just totally taken back.
I didn't know those two were walking, talking, but Gil and I were walking and talking.
They were walking and talking, too. I mean, I don't know if we high-fived each other or just
At that
what?
point, we didn't have much to do because we had all the good people doing everything. So we were just glad-handing and going and telling people thanks for what you're doing.
We went down to the field at the end.
We did.
The
We were
whole
on.
time.
That's the way I ended up with the ball.
That's right. That's a great story and what's happened with the ball. They ran it. It was 10-7.
It was
And then
it ends 7-7, and Gallatin kicks a field goal.
Well, let's go back to that.
Please.
Yeah.
Most people were surprised when Gallatin came out and threw a pass in overtime. Gallatin was a running team.
Mm-hmm.
They ran the wing tee and ran and ran and ran. The only other time I had ever seen Gallatin in an overtime football game was in Jocks in 1979 when they played Central Mary, and they threw a pass on the first play of overtime. And it was, it just rang back to me whenever I saw it that's what they were doing. They lost that game, by the way. And Calvin Short's mother called him next morning at 5:30 and asked him why he threw the ball. So that's how you get respected as a coach. But anyway, then the second play they ran, didn't gain a lot, and then third play they threw a pass again and kicked a field goal. Lincoln County took the ball, as I recall, and stuck it on the left hash mark, ran an unbalanced line to the right, and flipped it to Tim Johnson, who was an all-state tailback and later played at Vanderbilt, and he went in virtually untouched. I don't know if there was a relief on either side, but it was a great moment, I thought, in high school sports, because you just realized you'd seen something you didn't think you were coming to see.
Somehow the player threw the ball that scored, and you caught it. What?
I was down there. Tim Johnson, as you said, ran it in, and I was down there. I guess you were too, and I must have been on one side and you the other. But Tim runs the ball in, and throws it to the official, who hands it to, I can't remember who it was, but one of the people that were working with us, who hands the ball to me, and I don't know what to do with the ball, so I took it home. And it sat in my garage for a number of years, and my son played with it, and my son later played for football for Franklin High School, but my son weighed 119 pounds, and there's not a whole lot you can do at 119 pounds. He was a very good high school wrestler, and so I finally said, no more football. Let's go be a star in wrestling. But Coach P had come and was the head football coach there. And one day I walked in the garage and saw the football and said, this football doesn't need to be here. So I went down and went to Coach P and said, Coach P, I got a football from your past, and I'm giving it to you, and you can do whatever you want to. I said, this is the football that won the state championship. And he says, how did you get it? So I told him briefly. I said, it's yours and you do whatever you want with it, but I know what you'll do with it. So he took the football, went to the locker room. About 3 minutes later, Tim comes running out and starts with the football and telling everybody about him running it in. So it's sort of unique that how people can get connected again, I think.
We got to the end of the day, and you had to have a lot of thoughts and reflections and, things running through your head, so much that had gone on. Can you sum up what all of your thoughts were individually as far as that is concerned, and how long did it take the feel good to wear away?
Gosh, we were just so overwhelmed and proud. And I think when Charlie and I presented that check to the people at the Vanderbilt Children's Hospital or Therapy Clinic,
Physical Therapy Clinic,
that was the culmination of a lot of hard work and fun.
But the important thing is we were the chairs.
Yeah.
And our most important job after dealing with them, and I guess dealing with Vanderbilt, is choosing the right people
Right, that's exactly
to do that. And so, yes, Scooter and I were just, as we were walking, and there's so many people, just, this is unbelievable. I can't imagine this happening. But the real credit goes to members in the Nashville Area Junior Chamber of Commerce who were willing to work and do all those things. So, yes, we were on a high, and the Clinic Bowl is important had always been important to the Junior Chamber, and for some of us that grew up going to Clinic Bowl games on Thanksgiving, it was, a highlight of my life, or one of them.
Yep. Well, I think the beauty of it is beautiful for them. It's an unbelievable organization, but it's also a great moment in the history of TSSAA, because as everything builds and that takes place in '82, it sort of takes the playoffs, and they continue to move forward and continue to do great things. And it was just one of the high points. There's a few high points in the history of TSSAA, and to see that's one of them. That's one of them right there. And you also have to realize and go back and say, and all of a sudden Mr. Bridges moved to the office in 1972. So things really, it's a neat time of history in there. And then when this one happened, it's just 10 years after that. It's just special.
Was the Lincoln County game at Gallatin I guess I'll say the most important part of that day?
Oh, yeah, no question. There's no question. The build-up, the fact that it's in, Charlie said down there, the two of them are standing on the end line. You don't think Gil Gideon and I were standing on the end line because we're getting ready to have awards after on the field. And all of that just had this build-up. And then I can also turn around and see Roy Kramer smiling, because it was huge for Vanderbilt too. Because even though we had Vanderbilt basketball championships there, Coach Kramer was very, very excited about what was taking place. And so all of a sudden, he's pulled it off too. So they pulled it off. It was just one of those magic moments that happen in any organization.
Put that in perspective. You all may or may not remember that Coach Kramer was there a great bit during the Gallatin-Lincoln County game. Next door at Memorial, Vanderbilt was playing North Carolina.
I remember that.
Were they really?
Yeah, that's right. I know that. And not that but when you turn around and think of all the things these two guys did, all the things the Junior Chamber did, one of the major things that we started happening at that time, when we had literally some cheerleading coaches come to meet with me years later to turn around and want to get something started to help people in cheer. And the next thing you know, we've got that going on in connection with it in the mornings of the. So it's just an unbelievable event in so many ways. It just took things and moved them forward.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
We were just proud to be involved with the TSSAA and the Junior Chamber and the Clinic Bowl. It was
Other parts is pretty neat. Friendships continue on, and it's been a pretty good while since 82.
2 years.
Spent college and Ollie.
We were all younger.
And Charlie and I went home that night, and we were like, just wonder if we hadn't had a Marion County from Middle Tennessee and a Brentwood County from Middle Tennessee, and then two huge. Wonder if we had a West Tennessee team and an East Tennessee team, and we hadn't had that last game. We probably wouldn't be doing this right now.
Yep.
We have a little luck.
luck counts.
It counts.
And there was a build up of all three games too. Everything just kept getting better.
We were worried about rain too.
I forgot about
Which you don't remember.
See, that's a factor. You have to. Anytime you're putting three on at the same place, weather becomes a factor, and it ended up.
I think it rained just a little.
Just a little bit. Yep. Great day.
Okay.